Right. What do you remember most about the early beginnings of the Justice League, and how did you join the crew?
Yeah, so Justice League for me, I mean, it was again humble beginnings at NC State for me. I started, it was I started at NC State in '96, and a couple years in, I bumped into Cesar Comanche at one of the local smoothie shops in the area, and he was kind of running the joint, and he would play some hip hop joints as I'm walking in, and we just kind of started talking about music, and eventually just realized that he's from Jacksonville just like I am. And once we realized we're up in Raleigh and we're both from a small town and we both have the same interest in music, we just kind of clicked at that point. And started realizing as far as other MCs in the area, producers in the area. And we just, again, it's kind of like when you have that same thought process and ideas and same types of music that you like, you just kind of gel with that person instantly. And that's what happened with, me and Median, me and Comanche, me and Ninth, and eventually the whole crew, basically. So it all kind of started late '90s for us. We started recording joints in the dorm rooms of North Hall at NC State, and that's when we realized Ninth did production on the computer, which was crazy at that time. It's so funny how that was kind of this anomaly back then, but it's just basically the norm now. So it's like Ninth was ahead of his time on a lot of fronts with that. And again, it just all kind of stemmed from having the same love for the music. We were the ones that made sure that we had a Source magazine the moment it came out. We were the main ones that would talk about that new Tribe record or that new Buster record, and we knew what we were talking about when we had those conversations. Slum Village, whatever it was. So when you have that type of camaraderie with people, you just click with them, and we just so happen to realize that all of us as brothers and as artists, we're good. Like, we're actually dope artists. And once we realized how dope we all were, it was like, man, we got a lot of dope stuff here. What can we possibly do with it? And Comanche and Ninth kind of spearheaded the Justice League campaign, and we kind of stumbled upon at shows, just kind of saying, oh, we're a musical collective now, and everybody was down with it. So again, I never thought about it as a way of me thinking, okay, I'm solo and I can no longer do anything with my crew undefined. It was like, here's another outlet to be able to, get the music out and get some folks to turn heads. Because I think the biggest thing for us at that time, as Undefined or the Justice League, was how can we get people to hear what we got? And it took the Justice League to form 15 artists to call themselves the Justice League to get people to pay attention. And again, it worked. And we were clear that we knew we weren't a group per se, and we didn't expect to have a Justice League album or anything like that. But it was like, we're stronger together. And that's what we decided to do. And eventually dropped the NC State of Mind mixtape in '03, and linked up with hiphopsite.com, which was a really popular website at the time for underground music. They had the dopest reviews and just knew about what was coming out, what was new. And we linked up with them to sponsor the mixtape, and it just blew from there. And we had a pretty nice buzz even before that, locally. That was probably the first time I realized I was bootlegged as a solo artist, because my joint, The Righteous Way to Go, was on a mixtape that a dude had handed me out in the streets of Raleigh. It was like, yo, check this joint out. And I'm like, yo, I'm on this. Like, what's going? You know what I mean? So I was kind of like caught off guard by that, because I come from the era of, now we don't play when it comes to bootleggers. But at the same token, when that happened, I'm like, I'm getting recognized. Like, the name and the word and the music is getting out there. So all you can do is embrace it. So it was a magical time, man. Because for me, at least, I felt like it was a lot of grinding to get your name heard, and really believing that what you had is something that could be received well on a larger scale. And it just grew. And luckily for, the rest of the crew, and obviously with Ninth getting his big breaks as a producer, helped all of us, man, helped all of us. So I'm grateful for that opportunity. And always think about, could have been different. And, one cat may have not gone to NC State or NC Central, or, Pooh might have stayed in VA, and, how could it have been? But that's a whole nother dimension that you can't worry about. All you can worry about is the here and now. And again, grateful for that history.
Right. What do you remember most about little brother catching the buzz early on?
Yeah, the biggest thing with Little Brother, man, was like I just remember because we used to always also go to Duke University's radio station, WXDU, and Knife would either DJ or host some of those nights. And when we were starting to gain that buzz and Little Brother was starting to form, Knife had told me in the car on the way to this radio station, he was like, "Yo, we're gonna start a crew, and we're gonna call it Little Brother." And I just remember just how the way he said it was just like, it's about to be on was kind of like the vibe I was getting from it. And I was just like, Little Brother. I was like, all right, word up, let's do this, so full support of that. And basically once they kind of took off and got the label deal with ABB and getting all kinds of crazy cosigns, phone calls for Pete Rock and everybody else in between, and boot camp connection and everything. It was just like, man, this is, as a hip hop fan, it's kind of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. And as an artist, it just kind of solidifies that everything that you thought from your humble beginnings in Jacksonville were right and exact, because you knew you had something that people wanted to hear, and you've contributed to this movement that is now happening in a very unlikely place at that time, and it became pretty big. So very proud of that, and appreciate all the comrades from Justice League for playing their part, and we all just understanding that we're stronger together, and it definitely benefited us. So it's dope.
After the release of New York State, or I'm sorry, NC State of Mind, um, did life change for you at all? And are the labels reaching out at this time?
When NC State of Mind came out, it was basically one of these things where it changed in the sense of the online landscape at that time, because at that point it was just kind of like, you know, um, basically like bulletin boards or places that you kind of post, and that's where Comanche kind of started the lawn, which was kind of a site for all the fans to kind of go and talk to the fans, or all of us as Justice League artists, and basically be able to talk to us one on one. And when the NC State of Mind mixtape came out and the reviews were so great, and I think just people just started paying close attention to what we were doing, I just think from a notoriety standpoint, it became huge. Financially, no, not at all. I think I probably not received a dime from it to this day. And I mentioned that also in that Shady Business remix of Floe Freestyle. But and not to say it didn't matter, but I think I'm always that visionary where I'm thinking big picture. I'm just kind of like, we're doing this to try to get our crew and our sound and who we are as artists out to as many people as possible. And not saying just, accept any bad business practices, but I am saying if you think about the bigger picture and you're doing this for your circle of artists, you kind of do what you got to do, especially at an underground level. So just be dope, drop dope material, be on call when your crew members need you, and just always think about it for the benefit of your crew. And that's what we did. So yeah, so no financial overhaul by any means, but notoriety and people paying attention, and fans ultimately that I didn't even realize I had, definitely started to sense that for sure. So it was kind of one of these things, like things were moving so quickly where it was like, okay, the buzz is here. What are we gonna do with it? And sometimes you just, as a fresh artist, you're not even understanding what is even happening, right now. Right. So you may not move as quickly as others, but ultimately you kind of feel like, hey, people are paying attention, so you got to get on point and stay on point. And I think that's where I was at that point.
Right. At this point, I want to talk through your lengthy discography. We don't have to spend a lot of time on each release, but just kind of let us know, what you were going through, what you remember most about each release, and, maybe the feedback or buzz around each project. The True Links EP, 2005.
Yeah, that's kind of the baby. That's what set it all off for me. I released that in June of 2005. I had the whole premise of it was to kind of have, again, a true link with other producers, artists, and my crew. So I had multiple producers on that project. Illmind was on a joint called Eye for an Eye. DJ Forge, obviously Knife, Crisis, a couple other producers from the area named Picasso. And again, just wanted to think of it as I'm not just trying to link up with this producer just because he's a producer. I'm really trying to link with him to make something that people will pay attention to. And I can't forget about my bro Obsidian Blue. Obsidian Blue produced a joint called Time Life on the EP, and that's probably one of, if not one of my favorite joints on there, because I feel like his sound, which was very, for me, unique at the time, meshed very well with my style as an MC and as an artist, and kind of what I was talking about on the joint. And I just think we linked perfectly when it came to that. So that was kind of the whole idea of True Links, but ultimately that's what set everything off for me as an individual artist.
Floe Almighty mixtape 2006.
So that's when I first got with another label. So I linked up with Shaman Work Recordings out of the DC area. They did a lot of joints with John Robinson, Science of Life. Had major connections with MF Doom, rest in peace. Several other dope artists. So I linked up with Shaman Work. They felt real confident in what I was doing at the time and wanted to, help release that joint. So they helped me with some sponsorships as well. And that was just one where I was kind of like, I'm here. You know what I mean? I kind of felt like I'm here, and let's do more to let people kind of take notice. And that was kind of the official release, where it was not only pressed up, but that was my first individual or solo artist vinyl that I had. I had a joint called The Torch that was released on vinyl. A couple remixes, I think, was on that 12-inch, and was in stores. Got some pretty good responses and reviews on it. So it was kind of this meshing of minds from, again, business savvy and just understanding, how can I join forces with someone else to help get the name out there. So, pretty solid experience with that one.
You touched on the remixture earlier. What was that project about?
Yeah, so the remixture, as I said, the experience with another label was a solid one. Wasn't necessarily a perfect one. So as I kind of thought through kind of the business dealings and just understanding, what makes the most sense for this situation, kind of had some interactions that kind of had me think twice about, is this the right direction I need to go in with, another label? And just based on some ins and outs behind the scenes, I decided to re-release Floe Almighty and basically have it as all remixes. And in one way, it was just kind of a creative way to just, keep the same joints, but have other producers on it, obviously for remixes. But then there was another way to just kind of say, from a business standpoint, I don't know about, how we got down with Floe Almighty, but as the owner of these songs, the true owner of these songs, let's kind of get them out there in a different light. So that's kind of what I did with that. And again, had some, to me, some great remixes on that, where I, had original tracks. I didn't necessarily just throw another beat over a track that was already out. I did brand new lyrics, new concepts and everything with that. So I think it helped, have people kind of recognize me again as a dope artist, but I had some of my production on there as well. And, definitely just wanted to kind of think about Floe Almighty from a different angle, business wise, with that one. So I think I was successful with it, but, fast forward to today, when, streaming is king nowadays. I think the algorithms get confused when they, see a Floe Almighty, and then they see a Floe Almighty remixture. So I think the former kind of gets more of the love, so to speak, but I got some plans to, possibly re-release some things so that the remixture project gets a little bit more recognition.
Right. Road to the Streetwise mixtape 2008.
So this is when I was preparing for my first official full-length album, the Streetwise LP, and I wanted to have something that could kind of, feed the streets, if you will, to get people ready for that album. And at that time, I was working with other producers, and this cat named Jay Wills, who would eventually produce an album with me called Floetry in Motion in 2012. But I initially linked up with him, as well as a cat from Canada Vancouver, Canada, named Blunt, and they kind of helped with a good portion of that project. But it was just something that I wanted to release for free, kind of mixtape style, and dropped it in the '08 just before the Streetwise LP came out. Some of the joints were maybe just one verse from me that maybe I did a collaboration with a cat from overseas, and I didn't necessarily have the final mix of that collaboration, but I did have my verse. So I decided to just release kind of my portion of some of those songs on the road to Streetwise, along with again new joints and joints cats may not have heard before. So that was one to just kind of get people prepped for the Streetwise LP.
Right. How'd you link with Jean Grey for Smash Mouth?
Jean Grey, man. So that was basically a collaboration primarily with her and Knife, and Jean decided to come out to North Carolina to record the project. And all I can say about Jean Grey, man, is that she is an artist in the truest sense of the word. And what I mean by that is when people generally think about an artist, especially when it comes to music, they just think about just music. But if you think about it from a label standpoint, a typical major label is looking for an artist to just portray something, to be an artist towards something. That's why there's all this, talk and strategy about releasing a club banger or releasing a joint for the ladies or, whatever it is. They just need a face for it. And the artist is that face. But when you really think about an artist and what an artist really represents, it represents this free form of expression that can only come from you. And Jean Grey embodies that. So with the Smash Mouth joint, it was basically one of the last joints we recorded. Might have been the last joint we recorded, or she recorded for the Genius album. And Knife wanted to get anybody that was in the studio at the time to get on the joint. He told us about the beat. I think the beat was produced by Fatin, if I'm not mistaken. And myself, K Hill, homie K, shout out K Hill. Obviously Gene was on that, and Joe Scudder was on that joint. And we basically just went back to my car to write our lyrics that night for the joint. Might have taken us 30-45 minutes for all of us to have our verses done. Went back to the studio, knocked them all out, and it was just crazy. But just kind of going back to Jean, she recorded. Most folks know she recorded that album in like 4 days or something, like the entire joint, not having any lyrics written or anything. She wrote it, conceptualized it, recorded it, everything within days. And then just went about her way like like it was nothing. So I'm just sitting here like, wow, so that's an artist, man. And just want to give her respect for that. I know she's doing a variety of things today, and probably everything that I'm saying is manifesting itself based on what we're seeing from Jean Grey nowadays. But yeah, just dope experience, and was glad to be able to contribute to that project.
2008 rolls around, and it's time to finally release your debut LP. What's the train of thought and the